What Jake did is he slid back and landed a punch.
Yeah.
It's like the athleticism along with the intelligence, the technique. I'm like, he's not even doing it that long.
On December 19th, 2025, Jake Paul stepped into the ring with Anthony Joshua. The fight ended with Jake Paul's jaw broken in 2 places, a brutal 6th-round knockout that had the entire boxing world talking. But that's just where this story begins. Because just 10 days later, Anthony Joshua found himself in a completely destroyed vehicle on one of the most dangerous highways in Nigeria. 2 people are dead, a championship boxer pulled from the wreckage, and a tragedy that reminded the entire world that sometimes life hits harder than any punch ever could. Joe Rogan had warned Jake Paul about the price fighters pay in the ring, but nobody saw this coming. Today we are going to break down everything that happened. Because trust me, this goes way deeper than just a boxing match. Let's rewind to November 2025. The boxing world was buzzing because Jake Paul, the YouTuber turned boxer, just announced he was fighting Anthony Joshua. Not some retired fighter, not some MMA guy past his prime, but Anthony Joshua is a former 2-time heavyweight champion, Olympic gold medalist, and one of the most dangerous punchers in boxing history. Now, when this fight was announced, people lost their minds. Some thought Jake Paul was absolutely crazy. Others accused Joshua of selling out by taking the fight. But one person who had a lot to say about this matchup was Joe Rogan. On his podcast, The Joe Rogan Experience, Rogan didn't hold back. He called this fight one of the craziest propositions of all time. And here's why. Jake Paul had just fought Mike Tyson in what many people thought looked like a sparring session. Nice and easy, both guys making money, nobody getting seriously hurt. But Anthony Joshua, that's a completely different story. Rogan broke it down like this. You're dealing with a guy who's an Olympic gold medalist, he's enormous, he's got vicious knockout power, and he's got an immense amount of experience at world-class levels. He even showed footage of Joshua knocking out Francis Ngannou, the UFC heavyweight who hits like a freight train, and Joshua destroyed him in just 2 rounds. But here's what really got people talking. Jake Paul put a weight limit in the contract. Anthony Joshua couldn't weigh more than 245 pounds at the weigh-in. Most people thought this was smart, right? Force the big guy to drain himself by cutting weight. But Joe Rogan saw right through it. Rogan said on his podcast, "There's not a chance Anthony Joshua is going to come in drained. What he's going to do is just do extra cardio, and that's just going to make him more dangerous. He's going to be terrifying, and he's going to have a lot to prove." And Rogan didn't stop there. He talked about how angry Joshua would be. He's going to be very upset that this YouTuber, who's fought Tommy Fury, who's a legit boxer, and a couple of other guys who were legit boxers, wants to fight him. Everyone else Jake fought was either a wrestler, an MMA fighter, a basketball player, or an older fighter past their prime. Rogan then said something that sent chills down everyone's spine. Anthony Joshua is a specialist at putting knuckles through your brain, and that's what he's going to try to do to Jake Paul. The UFC commentator made it clear, if this fight looked anything like the Mike Tyson exhibition, people would think it was fixed. There was no way a fighter like Joshua, still chasing championship belts and trying to prove himself, would take it easy on Jake Paul. December 19th, 2025. Miami, Florida. The Kaseya Center was packed, and Netflix was streaming this fight to 33 million people worldwide. The purse, a reported $184 million, is split between both fighters, with each making around $92 million. This was huge. When both fighters stepped into the ring, the size difference was obvious. Anthony Joshua weighed in at 245 pounds exactly, hitting that contract limit. He stood 6 feet 6 inches tall. Jake Paul, even at heavyweight, was giving up serious size and experience. The fight was scheduled for 8 rounds, 3 minutes each, with 10-ounce gloves. And from the opening bell, you could see Jake Paul had a game plan. Keep distance, move, clinch when Joshua got close, and try to survive. Surprisingly, Paul actually landed some shots early. He even caught Joshua with a big right hand in the opening rounds. But here's the thing. It didn't even faze the British champion. Joshua just ate it and kept coming forward. That's when you realize the massive gulf in power between these two fighters. For the first few rounds, Jake Paul actually looked competitive. He was moving, boxing smart, using his jab and trying to tire Joshua out. The crowd was surprised. Maybe Jake had a chance? But by rounds 4 and 5, you could see Paul's cardio starting to fade. All that movement, all that clinching, it was taking its toll. Joshua stayed patient. He kept walking Paul down, cutting off the ring and landing heavy body shots. You could see it in Jake Paul's face. Those body shots were draining him. His hands started dropping. His footwork got sloppy. And Anthony Joshua knew exactly what to do. Round 6. That's when it happened. Joshua caught Paul with a combination that had been building all fight. First, a hard jab that snapped Paul's head back. Then a devastating right hand that landed clean on the chin. Paul's legs wobbled. He tried to cover up, but Joshua was already throwing the finishing sequence. Another right hand, then a left hook, and Jake Paul went down. He got back up. You have to give him credit for that. But the referee could see Paul was badly hurt. Joshua came in for the finish, landing more clean shots, and the referee stepped in to stop the fight. Technical knockout, round 6. Anthony Joshua wins. But the damage was done. Jake Paul's jaw was broken. Not just broken in 2 places. He had to be taken to the hospital immediately after the fight. Later, Paul would post an X-ray on social media showing the double fracture, joking, "Give me Canelo in 10 days." But nobody was laughing. This was serious damage. According to CompuBox stats, Joshua landed 48 of 146 punches. Paul only landed 16 of 56. All 3 judges had the same scorecard before the stoppage, 50 to 43, all for Joshua. It wasn't even close. After the fight, Joe Rogan went back on his podcast and his message got even more serious. This wasn't about trash talk anymore. This was a genuine concern. Rogan said, "The thing is that I would hope Jake recognizes that right now he's doing great, and he's only 28 years old. Don't do this for very long, because there's a price that you pay that is not worth it." Then Rogan got specific about that knockout punch from Joshua. That one punch he got from Joshua, say if you have a punch card, you have so many punches you can get in your life, which I believe you do. That one was like 10 punches. That was a lot of concussions in that one punch. That was real damage. If someone's breaking your jaw in 2 places, the inside of your head, there's a lot of damage going on in there too. This is where Rogan's experience really showed. He's been commentating fights since 1997. He's seen what happens to fighters who take too much damage. He mentioned names like Chuck Liddell, BJ Penn, and Antonio Silva, fighters who fought too long and paid the price later in life. It leads so many people to impulsive behavior, Rogan explained. So many people become gambling addicts, drug addicts, alcoholics after their fighting career. There's a price you pay, and that price is depression, deep depression. But Rogan also gave Jake Paul credit. He called him a good boxer relative to his experience. He said Paul had the heart for even taking the fight. The fact that Jake Paul wants to fight that guy, hey, I'll watch. Guy's got balls. He's got nothing but respect from me. Nothing but respect. Just don't do it forever. Rogan's message was clear. Jake Paul had already proven himself. He'd made hundreds of millions of dollars. He could do anything he wanted. Why risk permanent brain damage fighting elite heavyweights? Now here's where this story takes a heartbreaking turn. 10 days after the fight, Anthony Joshua was in Nigeria. He has Nigerian heritage. Both his parents are from there. And he even went to boarding school in Nigeria when he was 11 years old. He visits the country regularly, especially around New Year's, to spend time with family and connect with his roots. On December 29th, 2025, around 11 a.m. local time, Joshua was traveling on the Lagos-Ibadan Expressway in Ogun State with members of his team. He was in the backseat of a Lexus SUV. Driving the vehicle was a 46-year-old man named Adenyi Mobolaji Coyote. In the front seats were 2 of Joshua's closest friends and team members, Sinagami and Latif Lats Ayodele. Sinagami was Joshua's strength and conditioning coach. He'd worked with AJ for 10 years and had just been in Miami helping prepare Joshua for the Jake Paul fight. Lats Ayodele was Joshua's personal trainer. Just hours before the crash, Joshua and Lats had posted videos on Instagram playing table tennis together. They were friends, not just colleagues. According to the Federal Road Safety Corps, the SUV was speeding, traveling way above the legal limit. The driver attempted to overtake another vehicle on the highway, but during the overtaking maneuver, the front passenger side tire burst. The driver lost control. The Lexus SUV swerved and crashed directly into a stationary truck that was parked on the side of the road. The impact was devastating. Footage from the scene showed the SUV completely mangled. The front of the vehicle was crushed. Bystanders gathered around, many filming on their phones instead of helping, something Joshua's uncle would later criticize publicly. Anthony Joshua, sitting in the back seat, survived with what authorities described as minor injuries. Cuts, bruises, and trauma. The driver also survived, but Sina Gami and Latif Ayodele, both sitting in the front of the vehicle, were killed on impact. Both were pronounced dead at the scene. Video footage showed Joshua being helped out of the wreckage. He was shirtless, covered in cuts, and surrounded by broken glass, clearly in shock. You could see the pain and confusion on his face. Not just physical pain, but the realization of what had just happened. The Lagos-Ibadan Expressway, where this happened, has been identified as the most dangerous road in Nigeria, with over 600 fatalities in just 27 months. Excessive speed and wrongful overtaking are the leading causes of crashes on this highway. Joshua was immediately taken to a hospital in Lagos. The world waited for updates. His promoter, Eddie Hearn, said they were trying to contact him and get information. Jake Paul, despite their recent fight, immediately posted on social media, "Life is much more important than boxing. I am praying for the lost lives, AJ, and anyone impacted by today's unfortunate accident." Anthony Joshua spent several days in the hospital under observation. Nigeria's president, Bola Tinubu, personally called Joshua in the hospital to express his condolences and pray with him. The president also spoke with Joshua's mother. On December 31st, New Year's Eve, Joshua was discharged from the hospital. The Lagos State Commissioner for Information released a statement saying Joshua was heavy-hearted and full of emotions over the loss of his two close friends, but was deemed clinically fit to recover from home. Before leaving Nigeria, Joshua visited a funeral home in Lagos with his mother to pay his final respects to Sina and Lats. The emotional weight of what happened was clear. These weren't just team members, they were his friends. Sina had helped prepare him for the biggest fights of his career. Lats was someone he joked around with, played table tennis with, and shared his life with. Meanwhile, the driver of the vehicle, Adeni Mobolaji Coyote, was charged by Nigerian police. The charges include reckless and dangerous driving causing death, driving without a valid driver's license, and driving without due care and attention, causing bodily harm and damage to property. He was granted bail at 5 million naira, about $3,500, but remained in custody until he could meet the bail conditions. His court date was set for January 20th, 2026. There was another disturbing detail that came out. Joshua's uncle, Adedamola Joshua, revealed that bystanders at the crash scene had stolen Anthony Joshua's phone while he was in shock, dealing with the death of his friends. People were filming the tragedy instead of helping. It showed how vulnerable someone can be in their worst moment. Joshua eventually flew back to the UK. The funerals for Sina Gami and Latif Ayodele are scheduled to take place at a London mosque. The boxing community has rallied around Joshua, with fighters from around the world sending messages of support and condolences. In the end, both fighters learned the same lesson, just in different ways. Boxing is dangerous. Life is dangerous. And sometimes the real knockout punch comes from somewhere you never saw coming. If this story touched you, hit that like button, subscribe for more content, and drop a comment below sharing your thoughts.